So this is Unity 2018.1, and what you're looking at right here is sort of the development environment, and there are a couple important panels to take note of. Right here's the scene view. This is sort of the development environment that I can sort of navigate, and this is where I could move various game objects. This is where I can set up my terrain. Right here, this is the game window, and this is what the video game actually looks like when you are playing. So it's sort of where you set it up, and this is sort of the actual view. These right here are all game objects, and the hierarchy represents all the game objects that are in my scene or level. And then the inspector window represents the properties of the various game objects. You can see that I have the terrain object set up right here, so you can see the various properties of that game object. If I were to look at the directional light or the main camera or this water object that you can see right here, you can see all the various properties for those things. So in order to navigate here in the scene view, there's a couple of different things that you should know. Using the scroll wheel to click, I can pan left to right, up and down. If I right click, I can sort of tilt my perspective like so, and rotate things around. But if I use the scroll wheel to sort of toggle in and out, I can zoom by actually rotating the scroll wheel, not clicking. A couple other techniques where I can, for example, click on a game object, and then if I move my mouse into the scene view and press the key F, then it's going to zoom in on that object. If I'm off of the game object, it's going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing very rapidly, and I can sort of zoom in and pan and rotate in order to see various things. Now, the way that the terrain tool works is that you use the terrain tool settings right here. So for example, if I wanted to raise the terrain right here, I get this sort of paintbrush right here, and I can sort of paint and add to the height just by clicking. You can see that my opacity is set fairly low. If I boost that up, you can see that it's going to grow more rapidly. I can also press Shift, and that's going to lower the size, and so I'm going to sort of reset this and sort of click this. I don't want that to be such a dip right there. So use these painting tools in order to determine what the terrain actually looks like. I can smooth things out if I feel like this is sort of too sharp, or if I don't really like the lumpy nature of this right in here. I can smooth those out as well. As I zoom in into this area, you can sort of see how that is working a little bit more clearly. Now, there's a number of other tools that I can show you right here, the paint textures. And so right now I have textures turned on, and namely I can choose, for example, a texture like a grass right here. And then with the paint texture, I'm going to choose a different brush right here. I can zoom in and I can sort of add grass to this area. So this is sort of how you can adjust what the 3D environment looks like. If I wanted to have like a grassy, rocky mix right there, I can sort of intersperse that, and now it's not as intense. There are other objects you can add, like trees right in here. So I've imported these from various what are called packages, and packages or asset packages allow you to add features and functionality in game objects like these trees that you see in the game view. You can also add these detail objects, and if I scroll to a part of the scene right in here, you'll see that I have these little ferns. And if I press play, I'm going to actually enter the play mode. You'll see that there's sort of this runtime environment, and various ferns are swaying in the wind. This would also be a good time if you look down in the bottom window, the game window. Here is where you can see how the controller works. I've moved my mouse in order to change the view, and I can press W to move forward. Left is A, D is right, S is backwards, and the space bar is jump. And so with a combination of these tools, you can see how you can move around. And I haven't covered in detail But there's also this concept of a skybox, and the skybox allows me to add the sky that you can see up here with these clouds and these various elements right here. I'm going to exit out of the play mode, and you can see that that's set up in this lighting tab right here. I've created this Skybox material. If you look in my materials folder down in my project view, this is sort of all of the files and folders that make up my entire game. You can see I've got this Skybox, these Skybox elements over here that I set up into the property, which is visible in the lighting tab. Now I've built this for WebGL, so it's playable on the internet. It's a little bit laggy because of the type of platform that I'm developing for. It works a lot better if I build natively for Mac, PC, or Linux. But this is sort of a general overview of what I've learned. To summarize, it's sort of the navigation in the 3D environment, and then the terrain tool right here that you can sort of build an environment on. Last but not least, this first-person controller, you can see, has a number of things, but most importantly, these scripts right here. So scripts actually control the behavior of a game object. So you can see that there's a script that shows how the mouse impacts the way that you can look around, and then sort of the character motor has to do with the moving in various ways, and the first-person FPS, first-person shooter input controller script also controls how it moves. So those three elements or properties in the inspector window make for the movement in this environment. So this is my overview of what I've learned using Unity in the three-dimensional mode. Thanks for watching.